first problem is just sketching a graph. So you get to pick any points you want from your calculator. So I'm just going to ask some of you to give me some points. So let's just say we choose -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. You obviously want to pick points that will fit. And also try to get integers, so we're not doing like the 0.5s. So 1 pairs up, -1 pairs up with what? Negative what? 3. All right, close the door for me. 0 pairs up with what?
0.
0. 1 pairs up with?
1.
2?
0.
And 3.
-3.
Okay, so then you would graph it, of course. I'm not going to graph it, but you guys know how to plot points. So that's the first part. And I'll have it numbered like I did on the quiz. You know how I had it on the quiz? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'll be numbered like that already for you, so you don't have to worry about doing that. All right, so after you graph it, that will be number 1. And then number 2 says identify the axis of symmetry. So you're going to say x equals opposite of b over 2a. Okay, that's a 2. And then this is your a term, and your b term is 2. Okay, so the opposite of b would be -2 divided by 2 times -1. So what is -2 divided by -2? 1. So your answer is just 1 for that one. Okay, axis of symmetry. And then after that, what was the next thing? The vertex. So this is a good thing. And I set it up that way because once you have the axis of symmetry is 1, you can get the y-coordinate for the vertex right on your calculator. So once you know that's 1, then you look on your calculator and see what 1 pairs up with, or actually it's right here, 1. Okay, that's all it is for the vertex. Now, you do have to tell me whether the vertex is a minimum point or a maximum point. So since this parabola was going downward, that means, right, if it's going down like this, that means it's the maximum point. So you just write maximum, right? Or you can write max, it doesn't matter. All right. Then I'm going to ask you for the roots. So what's another name for roots? Solutions, which are x-intercepts. Now mine isn't drawn to scale, but I can tell up here the x-intercept should be this and this. How did I know that by looking at the table? Because the y value is 0. Okay? So I can look at my table and know, or you can look at your graph and see that it's going through 0 and 2. Now, you use little set notation for that. You don't use parentheses because those aren't coordinates. They're solutions. And then the domain and range. Some people on the quiz tried to actually tell me, like, these are the domains and these are the ranges. Not for a curve. You cannot identify every single point on a curve. Now, if it had been individual points, and you can read individual coordinates, yes, but these are all connected. So there are even points all in between here. There's no way you can list every domain and range for that curve. Okay, so that's how you know that answer would be wrong. You can't give me numbers, right? So you would say for x's, x such that x is an element of all real numbers. Because when your parabolas go up or down, and that's the only ones you're going to be graphing tomorrow or Friday, that is your answer for the x's. Okay? It's different if it's going sideways. It's going sideways. If you had a sideways parabola, then the y's are all reals. But you're not going to have a sideways parabola. They're either going to be going up or down. So this is going to be your answer every single time for your x's. Now, what do the y's based on is the y-coordinate to your vertex. So here's my vertex right here. Here's the y-coordinate to the vertex. So, since it's going down, it's getting smaller. So you say y such that y is less than or equal to that y-coordinate of your vertex, which is 1. If that vertex had been 2, the y-coordinate, I would have put a 2 there, less than or equal to 2. So whatever this y-coordinate is here, goes here. Okay? Yes? The domains are all reals if it's going up or down. It doesn't matter. Okay? It's going to be all reals if your parabola is going up or down. All right, so I'll save number 2 for you because you're going to just follow what I did here and that one. All right, so let's go to factoring. Okay, solve each equation by factoring. Okay, so that means you want like a binomial times a binomial or factor out the GCF. That's what we call factoring. So first, you got to set this equal to 0. You got to make sure it's, equals to 0 before you start doing anything. So I'm going to move this 2n over by adding it over and move the 15 over by using the opposite sign. So that's subtracting that over. Okay, so I just moved the 15 and the -2, and you do that by using the inverse operation. Then you factor it. Now, since this is a 1 here, I don't have to do that entire x method. I can just say 1 times what will give me -15 that equals to 2. Okay, negative what? -3 and positive 5. So it multiplies to give me -15, and it adds to give me a positive 2. Set it equal to 0. So I'm going to say n minus 3 equals 0, n plus 5 equals 0, and then solve for n. So n, when I add it, will be positive 3. When I add it, or subtract it, that is, be -5. And then you use set brackets. Okay? All right, so we're going to do one more like that because I want you to be able to do some on your own as well. We are going to do number 7. Okay? All right. Any questions on number 5? All right. So I'm going to set this equal to 0. So I have to add the 8m over. And I can't do a binomial times a binomial because it is a binomial. So what you do is see if there's a GCF you can take out. What is the greatest common factor? M. And then you're left with m. When you divide both of these by m, okay, you're just left with m plus 8. So this right here on the outside is a factor. Okay, we just took out the greatest common factor, which is m. So you can still set that equal to 0 as well. So you'll say m equals 0, m plus 8 equals to 0. So there's nothing to solve for the m equals 0. It's already solved. That's the answer, 0. This one, subtract 8, you get -8. So your 2 answers are 0 and -8. Okay. Are we together? Okay. All right, let's move on. So that's with factoring. Now, here in number 8, when you do that one, make sure you take out a GCF. Okay, it should be either divisible by 3, 2, or 6. It's one of those numbers. Okay, so just make sure in number 8 you take out a GCF. All right. Let's go down to how do you solve by taking the square root. It's number 11. That's the key right there, square root. That's the method that we're using. So you still have to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to do 30. Actually, we don't have to. We can. Let me change that because you can, but don't do that. let's isolate the k squared, isolate the squared term. Okay, put that. Isolate squared term. So what gives it away is this word squared. You want to get that by itself. You want to get this term right here, the k squared, x squared, or whatever squared term by itself. So let's add 2. So that gives me 36k squared equals to 36. Okay. And then 36 is being multiplied by the k squared. So I'm going to divide by 36. So k squared equals 1. Now, to solve it from there, how do you undo something that's squared? You take the square root. And again, it's right in here. So now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So when I do that, you always say plus and minus. You always do the positive and negative. So that's your answer, positive and negative 1. And you can just write it this way, positive and negative 1. Okay? Yes?
I'm going to test. You work it wrong if you put k equals plus or minus 1.
No, as long as you have consent brackets. All right, so that's just doing the square root. Let's do the quadratic formula. Okay. I used to love the quadratic formula. I know, I'm crazy, right? Yeah. All right, quadratic formula. I will give you the quadratic formula so you don't have to worry about it, but I'm sure most of you probably have already memorized it. How many people already memorized it? Yeah, because it's just the discriminant and the axis of symmetry all put together. All right, that's really all it is. So I'll put it on the board for you for the test, so again, don't have to worry about it. Okay, it's also going to be on your formula sheet that you get for your SOL, so you don't have to, again, you don't have to memorize it. Okay. You do need to set it equal to 0 first before you start picking out A, B, and C. So we're going to move all this stuff over. You got to move it over there with the squared term. So 10b squared plus 12b minus 17. And what I've done on the test, I've also just, like, I put this up there, like, tell me the value of A, tell me the value of B. So when you put it in the numbers, you can just look up and see what you wrote down. So this would be 10, this would be 12, and negative 17. So when it says minus 17, that means negative. So which piece do you start with first? All right, which part is the discriminant? That's correct. It's just this part right here. Now, the reason we start with that is because if it comes out negative, we don't need to continue. We don't have to do the whole thing because there's no solution. So let's just see what it's going to come out to be. So I'm going to say b squared minus 4ac. My b term is 12, so you guys can put this in your calc and make sure you're using parentheses when you put it in the calculator. So 12 squared minus 4 times the a term, which is 10, times the c term, which is negative 17. This one should come out positive.
Yeah, decimal.
Give me the answer.
28.7.
No. Don't take the square root. I just want to know what it is. Can't be a
824.
824. Okay. All right. So that is your discriminant piece. 824. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So once you have that, then you're going to put it under the radical. You're going to put your opposite side of your b term, and then the 2 times the a term. So let's go ahead and do all of that. Okay. So x equals, okay, what is the opposite of 12? Negative 12 plus the square root of 824, all divided by 2 times the a term. Well, what's 2 times 10? 20. So now you have it all set up where...
Liana Zalea, if you're in the building, please report to the front office. Liana Zalea. Please report to the front office.
All right, so now we have it set up. You write it into two equations. How do you write it into two equations? You just simply split this part. You split the plus and the minus. Okay, so first we're going to find the square root of 824. What is that? 28.7?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to put it up here so I know. All right, 28.7. So now I'm going to say x equals negative 12 plus 28.7 divided by 20. And then my other one will be negative 12 minus 28.7 divided by 20. When you put this in your calculator and you put in negative 12 plus 28.7, make sure you hit enter, then hit the division key and 20. We're going to round to the tenths. Okay, we're going to round to 1 decimal. Yes. All right, did everybody get point? I don't know. 0.8 for the first one? Yes? All right, thank you. And who can give me the answer for the second one? Yes.
Negative 2.0.
Is that what you guys have?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just say negative 2. That's good. All right, negative 2. So as you see, if you take it like I'm asking you to take it, like do your discriminant piece first, it really isn't a hard formula to use. Okay, it really isn't. And the good thing about it, it gives you exact answers. Like you can't read 0.8 on your calculator if you were to graph it and say what the x-intercept was. Okay, so the quadratic formula will give you those exact answers. All right. This is probably the easiest part of the test. Okay, just doing the discriminant and telling me how many solutions. Yes?
Is that just the b squared minus 4ac?
That's all it is. It's the b squared minus 4ac. We just did it a few minutes ago. Okay, but based on that, you have to know if you get a positive number, you have 2 solutions. If you get a negative number, you have no solutions. And if you get 0, you have 1 solution. All right? So it first has to be set equal to what, though? You got to set it equal to 0 first. So you just can't automatically start doing it. If this says equals 4, you can't start until it says equals 0. Okay, so I'm going to subtract this 4. And then I'll have negative 3n squared minus 6n minus what? 10. All right, now equals 0. Now we can do the discriminant. Okay, so b squared would be negative 6 squared minus 4 times the a term times the c term. Okay, that should come out to be a negative number. Is that right? All right, negative what? Give me the number.
84.
Negative 84. So you simply write no solution. Okay, that's going to be the easiest part of the test. But the thing is, you got to make sure it equals to 0. Okay. Now we're going to do some word problems, some of the ones that we talked about this week. So let me pull those up because I want you to be able to just pick out certain words. What was that? Yeah, I gave you guys the answers. Right. So one is just like the worksheet, so you can check it as you go. And while you're here, if you get something wrong, you could ask. Okay. All right. So let's look at task 5 here. We did this in class, but I want to just point out some key words. Okay. Now, the first thing I would do when you see a word problem like this, and they give you what the equation is to punch it into your calculator. It's the first thing you want to do. So the variables that are after the equal sign, they act like x in the calculator. And what is equal to is your y. So you put your y equals key. You put in negative 16x squared plus 84x plus 100. Okay, just type it in. The first thing I would do is just get it in because at some point you're going to be referring to that table. Okay, and you got to have the equation in order to refer to the table. So it says, how long are the fireworks in the air? Now, this is the same question if I had said, how long will the fireworks take to hit the ground? That's just paraphrasing really what it says. How long is it in the air? Okay, how long does it take to travel? Or how long does it hit the ground? That's the same type of question. So that would be the x-intercept. Okay, but how do you find the x-intercept? Quadratic equation. Okay, remember the quadratic equation gives you those x-intercepts. Okay, so you could just simply use the quadratic equation. Now, eventually, guys, and I don't teach all of this until later, but I'm going to show you how you can also get decimals for the x-intercepts on your calculator. Okay, because obviously the quadratic formula is programmed into these calculators. All right. For the test guys, you got to know how to do the math. So I don't teach you all those tricks until later. Okay, but eventually I'll teach you how to get that decimal x-intercept. Right now we're just reading integers on the calculator.
So I don't always see all the calculator and getting the exact decimals.
Which is, like I said, there is, it's in the calculator. It's in there. It's on these too. Not just the decimals calculator, that's the online one you're talking about. Right, the decimals, right. It's on that, but it's also in your calculator that you have as well. And I'll show you how to do it. Okay? So, this right now, you would have to show me the quadratic formula to get the x-intercept. Okay? How high did the fireworks go? Then obviously that's that point that's at the top of a parabola that we call what? The vertex. So if it uses words like, what is the maximum height, or how high did it go, that means you're at the top. That's your vertex. Okay, but you're looking at the y coordinate to your vertex. But keep in mind, guys, you can't give me the y coordinate to the vertex unless you know the x coordinate. Okay, so you would have to do this. You would have to find x that way. Okay, so what is the opposite of b? Negative 84 divided by 2 times negative 16. Somebody tell me what that is. So what is negative 84 divided by negative 32?
Negative
2 point what? 65. All right, so then this is what you would do. You already have this in your calculator because I told you to put it in there. So now you're going to hit second window. Got to have the equation in. Okay, hold on. You got to have the equation in. And then you're going to hit second window. Okay, and then you're just going to type in 2.65. Now you're going to hit second graph to get back to the table. And you should see what it should be at the top of your table. 2.65 pairs up with what number?
200.
210, okay, approximately 210 feet. So even though this is the y coordinate, you still got to find x first. Okay, because x gives you, the y gives you the height. Now, here it says how high were the fireworks at 2 seconds. So go back to your table, hit second window, put in 2. Go back to your table, and you should have the answer. 204. And that's all you have to do. It's nice when they tell you already how many seconds, because again, your x is in time. So if they're telling you it's 2 seconds, all you got to do is just go to your table and see what 2 pairs up with. Yes?
So use the quadratic formula for the first one, for A.
For part A, if it comes out to be a decimal, I didn't graph it on, it probably yes, because it's a big number.
And,
Yeah.
And the quadratic formula gives you 2
It gives you 2 answers, but one is negative and one is positive. All right, we can't have negative answers in these word problems, all right? Because we can't have negative distance and negative time. So you're always choosing the positive answer when you separate it into 2 parts for the quadratic formula. You're always using the positive answer, okay? Because it doesn't make sense in the real world to have negative time, and we can't even go back to 215. All right? Correct? All right, we're going to do another word problem. Yes?
The task A is it says,
For what?
task A,
Task A.
it says how long the file took.
Right. So that means when it hits the ground, same thing as when it hits the ground. If it says how long is it in the air, it's the same thing as when it hits the ground. How long does it take to hit the ground?
Are you going to know whether we use the negative b over 2a or like the long?
Because I just told you how long means time. Is it in the air?
So it's not time, you use that.
If it asks for distance, you're using y. But remember, if it asks for time, you're using x. X is the intercept, though, when it hits the ground. Okay? So if it says how long, because x is always time, so even if it's the x-intercept, that's still time. Because how long does it take to hit the ground? Or it could say, how long does it take to hit its maximum height? That's the x-coordinate to the vertex. See, it's still time. How long does it take to hit the maximum point? Okay, that's still time. So that would be your x of your vertex. Yes. Yes, that's why I'm taking time to go over these, so you guys will know what types of words to look for. I don't know. Oh, let me erase this. I just answered your question. What did I just say? What did I just say? I don't know. All right. Did you think I was going to say something else? All right. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. How long was the rocket in the air? What are we looking for? How long was it in the air? X-intercept, exactly. How long was it in the air? It stops at some point. That's your x-axis. Okay, so think of, here we go. I'm not an artist, so here we go. This is the ground right here. How long does it take to get all the way right? That's the x-intercept. Okay, so if you're diving in some water, think of this as the water here. Okay, and here's the diving board. So how long will it take you to hit the water? That's still the x-intercept. It's like the ground. All right, you can't go any further than the x-axis. All right. How high was the rocket at 2 seconds? They've already this is your x. So all you have to do is type in this equation, go where x is 2, and that's your answer. So when they give you time, you just got to pair it up with what the y is. Okay? How high did the rocket get? The y value to the vertex, exactly. But in order to get y, you must know what?
X value.
Right, how do you get x again?
You do axis of symmetry.
Axis of symmetry, exactly. All right? Okay. All right, guys. Good job.